Hey guys, Frank here with another episode of Modern Church Leader. I was thinking ChatGPT, but this is an episode of Modern Church Leader, not brought to you by ChatGPT. I'm here with my bud Nils, man, all the way from New York. How you doing, man?
Good, always good to
Yes,
be on here with you.
in a new studio. We were talking about all this. You got a
Yep.
fancy new setup.
Fancy new
It
setup in Brooklyn, New York.
looks good too. Like,
I appreciate it.
yeah, I mean, you got
Yeah,
the New York buildings, like just the brick and like the modern, the old, how it's all brought together is awesome.
yes. And this is, in New York, you get a lot of fake, but this is legitimately a 120-year-old warehouse in Brooklyn, and it might just start shaking at any point because they're filming some scene downstairs. But, yeah, it's part of the fun. I've got wood floors that are creak and probably mice running down the hallways.
Yeah.
This is space.
Amazing. I mean, you've been in New York for a long time.
Yeah, about a decade.
You love it out there.
It's home. It's home.
It's a cool city, man. I've never spent long periods of time there. We'll go for the weekend. We went to this was years ago. This was like pre-COVID. Isn't it weird? Like I say that now as if it's like this milestone. It's like this thing where there's like pre and post COVID world.
It is. Yes.
Yes. So anyways, but we went to a Knicks game and the Knicks were terrible.
Yes.
So we were able to get like really good seats for really cheap. So we weren't like courtside, but we were like down on the court.
Yeah.
So we were a few rows back and like, but like best seats I've ever sat in. And I was like, man, basketball players are huge. When you're sitting at that level and you get to like see the size for real, I was like, man. But yeah, we usually
Madison Square Garden is such a great venue to take in a game. There's not a bad seat to play.
We like just had to go do it, right? Like I kind of became a pseudo Knicks fan when Larry Johnson went to play there.
Okay.
Like I don't know if you're a basketball guy. Do you remember Larry Johnson?
Larry Johnson. So one of my clients is Allen Houston.
Okay.
The old Knick, and so he and Larry Johnson are good friends. And Larry just moved back to New York and is working with the Knicks again. And
no.
So he's a good guy. Evidently, I've not met him, but I hear really good things about him. Grandmama.
You need to get. I don't know how we're gonna work this out, but like you need to get some kind of meetup set up. And I'm going to fly to New York and meet Larry.
Okay.
I'm from Vegas. Okay. So I'm like from Vegas. When he played for the Rebels,
UNLV.
I was a kid cheering for that team, like Tark, Stacey Ogman, Larry Johnson, the whole crew. I have a basketball signed by the whole team because like my mom knew a trainer somehow and like got me an autographed basketball.
Okay.
So
we'll make it happen. This is so random and nobody else cares. And I love that you care. Larry Johnson sent me a invite request like a year ago on LinkedIn, and so we are LinkedIn, and I was always like, why is it? And I think it's because of my connection with Alan, but we've never talked. He just sent me an invite request, and we're friends on LinkedIn.
Right. This is so weird. A basketball player, your former basketball player, is like LinkedIning. Who goes on LinkedIn?
Grandmama does.
Grandmama does. So good. We'll hook it up if it all works out. If God wants it to happen, it will. And then I'll get an autographed jersey and I'll put it up here because that's right there.
Okay, we'll eat a slice of pizza. We'll go meet Larry Johnson
with Grandmama.
We'll get a signed jersey. And it will
so we were going to talk about social media, but we just figured AI is way more fun to talk about. And we were talking about sermon writing and all this kind of stuff. But why don't you just real quick, like, what do you do? Like for the audience, like how did you get into helping churches? What was your journey into helping churches? What do you do for churches today? Just so people have a little background on you and understand your credentials a little bit.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about it on my way to work this morning. I don't even know why I went down this mind path, but I was just we have this incredible view in Brooklyn up Manhattan. And one of the things that people say about New York is that it's at the intersection of the world. And so you have, like we're not far from the UN. And so you kind of have the government, having a significant presence. Obviously, you have entertainment. You have business, and Wall Street. And so you really have this intersection of all industries in one place. And so where I feel like I find myself is at the intersection of ministry, marketing, and technology. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like God's uniquely wired me. I'm a pastor, at heart. I thought I would be in full-time vocational ministry for the rest of my life, and God just kind of pulled me out of that
Yeah.
role, but I learned even in stepping out that I get to do exponentially more ministry now as a consultant. So I help ministries do more ministry through technology,
Yeah.
and so I do that through social media consulting. I do that through just various different tools. I have a podcast, Social Media Church, where we talk about social media for church leaders, and so I feel like I've gotten to sit in some really unique, strange, weird seats. Some of it's crypto, helping churches learn how to
Yeah.
donate crypto,
Right.
and so yeah, and AI, in this conversation is kind of one of those things too, where it's just like, what do we do with this? How does this technology help us do more ministry? And that's in many ways what I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah.
help churches figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, crypto, like you've had the journey, like social media was this thing that churches were trying to figure out. Maybe even going back before that, it was like websites and email, and
Yeah,
then it's social media
totally,
for a long time, which is
totally.
super. I feel like churches are still trying to figure it out.
Yes,
Um, and
yes,
then, yeah, crypto hit. So that was kind of this interesting time. And now AI is just like steamrolling everybody, right?
yes,
In a different, it's like
yes,
a whole different way. Like
yes.
it's just here. So, like, I want to get your perspective. Like the pastors I've talked to, I've literally had like two very different reactions. I've had the reaction of, I'm like, no way, not touching it. That stuff scares me.
Yeah,
Like,
yes,
that's weird, right? I've had that
yes,
reaction, and I've had
yes.
the like, oh, I'm all in. Like I'm not
Yeah,
necessarily like writing my sermons with AI, right? Like that,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah,
all in. Like I'm playing with it. I'm
yeah,
seeing what it'll do. I'm asking it questions. Like I'm into it, right? So I've
yeah,
had like very interesting both
yes,
sides reaction. But it's so new. I
yes,
mean, literally like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, max, like
yeah.
it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, it was. And the truth is, Frank, and you know this, it was a thing. It just wasn't known
Right,
by everything. It wasn't like mainstream. AI has been in our world for
right,
years. We just haven't been able to literally type in to ChatGPT or these other things, design me this graphic, or do this thing
right.
for me. And now all of a sudden, this technology that's been working in the background is accessible to us like it's never been, and then it's opening people's eyes to what this is, where you've heard about it theoretically, and now you're seeing it tangibly, and it's creating opportunities. I think, Frank, as I look at it and as I think about the church, I think the biggest challenge right now is even how do we approach it,
Hmm.
and then I think we got to figure out what we do with it. And I think the approach that I see, just to your point of, I think pastors in some ways are taking the wrong perspective, leaning one way or the other, of being like against it, which is what we've seen generally with church technology, of like with websites. It was like,
At the beginning,
well,
yeah.
we're supporting porn if we're going to have a church website. It's like, no, but that's what we perceive the internet
Right,
to be.
right,
And if we got on social media, then we were supporting people having an affair,
right.
because people had affairs on social media. No, people do bad things with everything. They do
Everything,
bad things
yeah.
with
With
telephones,
anything,
with fax machines,
yeah.
with any innovation. And I think AI is the same thing, where we can learn from the past of, we don't need to be fearful of this technology, but we need to be thoughtful with it. And so while we might be resistant, even our insides might be like, I'm a little bit uneasy with that. Maybe that's okay.
Hmm.
But I think we need to be open to
Right,
it and have that open mindset. And then the other side, though, is some churches are like, oh, I can quit writing my sermons because this will just write my sermon for me. I can quit. Like, we need to go all in on AI. And look, AI doesn't need to run your church. AI should be another tool
yeah.
that helps you do more ministry and do more effective ministry. So it's just another tool that I think that we need to be aware of, to be thoughtful with. But you don't need to go all in. You don't need to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars on some AI software. I think you just need to be thoughtful of like, hey, this is another opportunity for us, and if we lean in the right ways, and in the right timing, this is going to be another helpful tool to
Hmm.
help us do more
Yeah.
ministry, and hopefully a tool that we don't have to play catch up with.
I,
We have an opportunity, I think, to be on the forefront
right.
of this technology rather than being behind.
I heard somebody kind of talk about it like back in the day when like word processors and email and things like that were starting to hit the workforce,
Yeah,
right? Like it hit, and it's like these are new tools
Yes.
that nowadays, like everybody knows
Yes.
how to use Microsoft Word or Google Docs or
Yeah.
Excel or any email client, Gmail, right? Like they're just part of what you do, like
Yes.
for the most part. Like I'm sure there's plenty
Yes.
of jobs where maybe you're not doing that stuff, but for any like information knowledge worker, right? You're using these things all day, every day. But
Yes.
like back in the day, the things hit the scene and you had people that were resistant to those.
Yes.
And if you didn't sort of adapt and start using that tech, like you were going to be out of a
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
like because there's going to be people
Yes.
that were just better at doing what the job
Yes.
was because they're using modern tech, right? So
Yes.
I mean, I think AI is new and interesting, and we don't know, and there's lots of things that could go wrong with it, and all of that. Like, and
Yeah.
someone was also asking me, like, oh, there's the kind of the right, like regulation, and this is like people have referenced like, oh, it's like nuclear back in the day, like there had to be regulatory oversight or else this could go terribly wrong.
Yes.
So to me, I'm like, there's people that have been thinking about this problem probably for 20 years,
Yes.
right? Like they've been
Yeah.
working on AI for a very long time. So they're much more knowledgeable and savvy. And it's like just hitting us, like
Yes.
the commoners, like we're all like seeing it because ChatGPT and we're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this is amazing. So
Yeah.
people are going to figure out, I mean, I just believe people will figure out the right way to make sure it doesn't, I don't know, become Terminator and
Yeah.
kill us all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
What
but
I think though, Frank, that there's a side of it that I mean, yeah, I'm not so fearful of like the robots turning on us, like you see, and I do think that there's enough smart people working on that side, and I'm maybe even a pessimist with the government, but I don't think we need to approach it with fear.
mhm,
I think we need to approach it with the lens of opportunity, but I do think that there is going to be, and this is just like social media. One of the responsibilities I believe pastors have with social media is to help their congregants know how to have a healthy relationship with social media. Is make sure your spouse has their password and things like that, and learn to have a healthy relationship with it. And social media has affected our society and our culture, and we, from a pastoral perspective, need to navigate that. AI will
right,
do the same.
yep,
And I think AI is also going to replace a lot of jobs. And I think there's going to be a need in the church to help people learn new skills and learn new opportunities. And I remember when I was at probably 15 years ago at a Baptist church, I would lead classes for our senior citizens to set up an email address
yeah,
and teach them how to do an
right,
email so that they could communicate with their families via email.
right,
And this was so new for them. And I think AI is one of those things where we have an opportunity to help people learn how to adapt and adjust to AI being integrated in their lives, and I think adapt and adjust to the lack of purpose that maybe comes from their job being replaced
yeah,
by the technology, because that's going to be real. There's going to be negative effects of this, just like there are negative effects of social media,
right.
but it doesn't negate the opportunity that also comes with the innovation.
Yeah, well, we were talking about our kids, right? I have triplet 11-year-old boys, and I
Yes.
mentioned to them that, oh, we've been, building this tool called Sermonly at Tithely to help pastors write sermons, right? But
Yep.
I mentioned, we've been doing that for a few years. It's a
Yep.
fun little project, but AI hits and the OpenAI API
Yes.
exists, and we're like, great, let's put AI into this sermon writing tool. And I was telling my kids, and
Yep.
they were like, Dad, you know about AI? Like, what
Yes.
on earth? They were losing their minds that I
Yes.
knew about this thing. And I was mentioning ChatGPT, which they obviously had heard of somehow, and were
Yep.
I don't know that they've used it yet, but they definitely were like
Yes.
they heard about it. So like,
Yes.
I mean, our kids are gonna grow up with this now. Like they're only
Totally.
11. You
Totally.
have kids,
What and my kids. I mean, I'm always like, go use ChatGPT, and they're like, that's cheating. I'm like, no, that's like me using a calculator back in the day. Of like, I'm not going to need to know how to do some of these things because AI is going to do that for
right?
us. It's just smart to, I think, use things to save us time
Right.
to be more effective, and even, I mean, I think what you're doing with sermonly is like, look, use this tool to help create efficiency in your research
Yeah.
process. It's not necessarily writing your sermon,
Yeah.
it's helping you with
It,
research. And that's going to save you
and
time,
that,
which is going to allow you to counsel more people, which is going to allow you to shepherd your people more
yeah.
effectively and probably preach better sermons at the same time.
I mean, you have it like ChatGPT, and then just to bring in Google, right? Bard, they have theirs, which is
Yes.
just the
Yeah.
name is harder to.
Which is my preference, by the
Do you
way.
like Bard? Have you
Between
used it a lot?
I'm a Bard guy.
Okay.
I've started in the last like 2 weeks
It
using
just
Bard.
doesn't. It doesn't have the same ring, but
No, it doesn't. They could have picked a better name, I feel like.
Bard. I haven't. I
Yeah.
got to look up what's the like why that name. I'm sure there's some reason behind it.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
either.
like
Yeah, it's a good
super
question.
intellectual. But like to me, again, talking to pastors, right? It's like, yeah, you're not going to use AI to write your sermons. Like
Yeah,
that's bad news. That doesn't. You're not replacing, God and the Spirit working on your heart, having
yeah,
something that you want to bring to the people and all of that, right? Like,
yes,
but we pastors use tools to help do research and they
yes,
use Google, they use books, they use commentaries, they use all kinds of resources to help prepare sermons.
yeah,
Well, ChatGPT or Bard or just AI in general is kind of bringing all of that into a place where you can have a conversation with it and do that research.
yes.
I don't know, 50% more effectively and faster,
Yeah,
80%
yeah,
faster. Like it's just
yeah,
making it, it's like giving you superpowers. Like everybody's got, the way I'm thinking about it is like every pastor now has like a whole sermon writing team that can help
yes,
you take what you're inspired to preach and put it on paper and do research and connect the dots
yes.
and all the things, right? Like I think it's
Yeah,
incredible for that, not to replace writing a sermon, just to help you as a
totally.
researcher.
Totally. And I think too, this is where I think AI is going to infiltrate every aspect of every organization.
Right.
And I think that comes with the church as well. My stepmother's a lawyer, and she was in town last week, and we were talking about it, and she was like, look, it's going to replace 95% of what lawyers do
Yeah.
when it comes to creating contracts, reviewing contracts. And accountants,
Right.
you think about your accounting systems. AI is going to do your bookkeeping. It's going to, and I think AI can integrate into it. Can create graphics for your sermons. It can create the slides for your presentations. It can. I think it's not just one thing
Right.
that this is going to do, and I think that's where we need to be thoughtful. Just like we learned Google, and there's so many times, even as a consultant, Frank, that pastors like, how did you learn that? And I'm like, I used this thing called Google, and I searched it, and I found it on the World Wide Web.
Right.
And I'm like, I just learned how to Google maybe better than other people
Right.
did.
Right. Yeah, it's a skill.
We've
It's a
been
real
able
skill.
to
Yeah.
access. It is a real
My
skill,
kids
and I
are
think
going to know how
AI
to
is going to be the
YouTube
same.
better than anybody. Like they're going to know how to
Yes. Yes. My kids know, like with AI, they like Alexa is a family member in our house. Like they know how to, like they set all their alarms with Alexa. They turn off all the lights with Alexa. They ask her what the weather's going to be, so they determine what clothes they're going to wear.
Right.
But they also, like, Alexa has now triggered learnings that it's always making recommendations as to, would you like for me to do this for
Right.
you? And that's where AI is entering our day-to-day lives. But our kids, just like our kids know how to better YouTube than us, they're going to better know how to AI with us. But I think too, if we don't want to be left behind, I'm 43 years old and I'm feeling the oldness in myself.
Old man.
Where
I
it's just
I
like,
trimmed up the beard.
I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the gray too, though. For those not watching, we both got the gray beard going on.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do for the hair, I didn't get those genes, but I would take a head of hair like Frank. For those that can't see, but it really is. This is going to be a part of every aspect and going to integrate into everything we do in some way. And I think it can either, I think help us. I think in some ways it can hurt us. I think that the caution that I want to give church leaders is, let's let AI take away tasks so that we can embrace human to human connection,
Right.
because that's what only humans can do. AI can't replace human to human connection, and the more we can integrate humans to hug, to handshake, to talk, to have conversations, and to preach. But let AI research, let AI help with your accounting, let AI help with your graphics, let
Right.
AI help with your emails. And let AI be a tool to help you do more ministry. And I think it can be just that if we let it be a tool, and rather than a distraction or something to waste time on.
What's interesting too is that, and you mentioned this earlier, but as an example, like AI has been around actually for a long time.
Yes.
Think about like autocomplete on your iPhone
Yeah.
or in your
Yeah.
emails. Like that is
Yes.
AI, right? Like that's an
Yes.
early kind of thing that these companies started putting into place.
Yes.
Um, but they've been building these models because if they can do that, that means they've been learning
Yes.
language and right having thing like these language models and machine learning and all that behind the scenes
Yes.
doing stuff to then make that autocomplete or that spelling correction, like, or
Yes.
that automatic entry of a sentence because it knows where you're headed. Like all of that
Yep.
is kind of AI powered stuff, right? And
Yes.
now
Yes.
we're because to your point, because of this interface on ChatGPT and Bard, where you can just do anything, you can ask it anything, and all of
Yes.
a sudden got wild, right? But it's
Yes.
been happening behind the scenes for a long time.
It has, and I think, and I think about even when that auto finish came in, it was annoying.
Right.
It's like, no, I don't need that. It's fine the way it is. And if you think about the number of times where we're introduced to something new, we're like, I didn't need that, but then like down the road, you're like, oh, but
What
now
if I
I can't
didn't
even
have it?
dream about not having
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And I think if I would have just embraced it earlier, all the time that I wasted in my stubbornness to embrace this new helpful resource, and I think that's it. I mean, I think that's really. I think too. The other side though is like let smart people like Frank that is building out tools like this. Let them build out the tools, and when they bring them to you, just start using them.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to build it yourself. I think that's
Be
probably where I can
inquisitive.
see
I think
people
it's like,
making a mistake.
yeah, be inquisitive, be interested, kind of play
That's it.
around with it. Like I
Yeah,
think that's what I hear most people doing. Like
I love
you
that
brought up
perspective.
the
Yeah,
legal example. It made me think of two things. Number one, I was actually working on a severance policy, right, for a
yeah,
new hire, and so
yeah,
I'm not a lawyer, like I don't write contracts, right?
yeah,
But I was just
yeah,
kind of getting some of the basics done.
yeah,
So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Well, I could go look at an existing one we have, or I could go to
yeah,
Google. But you know what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I
yeah,
wrote down, the 5 bullets of the terms. I was like, hey, I need a
yeah,
severance policy. Here's the 5 key
yes,
points. Write me a severance policy. And
yes,
then it was like it came back and I had another doc, like one that we already had that I referenced. And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
huh, interesting, pretty close. And I was like,
yeah,
define the key terms in this because you have to like define
yeah,
things. That's what
yeah,
right. So it was really good. I was like, this is pretty incredible.
yes,
But there's no way I would use that right now
yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm not a
yeah,
lawyer and I don't know if what's in there is right. And then did you
yes,
hear about that case? I feel like it was in New York. I read about it in the newsletter where a lawyer wrote up the whole like thing he was submitting to the court using ChatGPT, like a legit lawyer, like 20 years in practice, and
yeah.
it had like fake cases referenced in it as
Wow,
it's like supporting
interesting.
facts.
Yep,
and
yep,
like the judge was like, what is this? This is complete,
yep,
but you didn't
yeah,
check your work. So like there's dangers. Like you can't just go use
yes.
ChatGPT or Bard and expect it to be perfect. You have to kind of still interact with it and know what's going on.
And I think right now, you need to, and I think this is where, and even my stepmother was saying, like, she's like, please don't do your legal documents with this
Right.
yet, because there's still a lot of gaps in this technology, and that's part of early adoption. But I think what more people are experiencing is like, I can't believe it's this
Right.
good. And even her as a lawyer, she's like, we're testing it all the time in her firm, and she's like, we can't believe it's this good. But it's not good enough that we can replace, basically, because what they're looking to do is replace kind of the lower level
Right.
legal
Yeah.
lawyers.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not there yet, but it's getting there fast.
And people are
And I think
building,
that's
like there's
totally.
actually a startup. I don't remember the name, but they're building, Chat GPT for lawyers. Like they're right. So
Yeah.
they're, to your point,
And it will be that for everything.
yeah,
Just like
they'll
you're,
be in,
you're saying, there will be Chat GPT for
yep.
preachers, there will be Chat GPT for lawyers, for accountants, and it's going to be a great tool. I'll tell you, Frank, the one this is getting into the really far. I said off technology, but it's not that far off. But it's deep fake AI,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you've seen this yet with like fake Donald Trumps or fake Elon
No.
Musk's, and Trump actually used it for a post he did recently. It's so good, and it could. So we actually use this in a ministry context with, I think I could say the name of the church, but Transformation Church in Tulsa. We created a fake Mike Todd. Now we didn't actually use it for anything, but we can create,
Yeah.
literally translate any of his sermons to any language, and use Mike's voice to preach his sermon in French.
Right.
And it is a fake version. Now, what anybody else could do is you could take any, because it's ingesting
Right.
1,000 hours of Mike's
Right.
voice.
Well, like
to
Apple's
create
doing something like that where you can like speak to it for a few minutes, use certain words,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it has your voice.
And I could type out a sermon for Billy Graham, to dead Billy Graham, to preach
Yep.
today, and it could be terrible theologically. So there's going to be all kinds of like abuses of this technology, and I think that's even more reason to be ahead of it, because we're gonna be able to better shepherd people and better guide
Yeah.
people in how to use it in for good and for bad. Just like social media, like how did we, or websites, like websites weren't just built for pornography.
Yeah.
They were built for a lot of uses, and social media wasn't just built for people to have affairs. It was built for people to connect and build relationships, and some of those are good, some of those aren't. And AI is built, for to help people, accomplish tasks or do jobs and move things. And there's going to be people that will abuse it, and there will be people that will use it effectively. And even like this deep fake, it's going to allow Pastor Mike to preach his sermon to people in French and reach them like he's never
That's
been able
cool.
to do before.
That's actually
What an incredible use.
that's
But it's also going to allow people to create fake Mike Todds
right.
and have him preach a sermon that's bad theologically, that aligns to their beliefs and not his, and misrepresent him, or probably ask for money and steal money and do things. I mean, so there's good and bad with everything, and we just have to be thoughtful and careful. And I think it's an interesting day, and I think Frank, as a technology guy, this is moving faster though than anything I've ever experienced in my life.
Totally.
And so that's the probably exciting and overwhelming aspect of AI. Is it's the social media was looking at, back then it felt like it was going really fast, but it was really slow in comparison to what we're sitting in.
I don't know. My brain is starting with MySpace. I know there was stuff before that, but it's like, you had that, and it's like company by company. I mean, I think ChatGPT was the fastest. We probably should look this up, but like the fastest growth like ever for any like app or internet product. Like it just exploded. Number of users on the product went through the roof faster than anything ever. Right?
Ever. There's, I don't know the exact numbers, but it is documented. And just I think they're spending millions of dollars a day just to run their servers, to power this free platform. It's it's unbelievable what they're doing. I will say too, just with ChatGPT, I've been watching all of the government, when they interviewed the founder of it, and even Elon Musk, talks negatively about it. I think Elon has his own agenda. I trust the guy behind OpenAI and the intentions behind it, and I feel good about, from my research around where the innovators are in AI, that their intentions are good, and they're I don't have concerns in who's creating the technology right now. Where in social media, I don't know that I could have said the same thing.
Right.
And so I'm optimistic about the future of AI and where it is today, and now we'll see where it goes. I mean, time will be a better teller.
I was at Stripe's conference a few weeks ago, and Sam Altman, the guy behind OpenAI, which, I hesitate on that because I also hear that there's other people, so whatever.
Sure.
He's the guy.
There's two sides always.
But, and then he goes and appears before, I think, like Congress, right? And they have the whole, should there be an OpenAI regulatory framework put in place? And he's pro that because, again, they use like the nuclear concept from back in the day, like nuclear power was this amazing innovation. that could do amazing things for the world, but also be
Yes.
used to do really bad things, right? And so
Yes.
there's this whole thing put around it. So he was pro that, which I think is really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like people are being thoughtful about, you know, the potential of harm in the future versus the good, and how to think about that
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's going so fast, faster than even, you know, I'm 45, so we're about the same age. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen anything go like this,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
where like it seems like every week there's like something new happening, right? Like some new
Yes.
thing, whether it's ChatGPT or somebody else in the AI universe, there's always something new. Um,
Yes.
and it's, I don't know, but I'm sort of like in the camp of like, this is amazing. Like, ride the wave and let's see where
Yes.
it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think this is, and Frank, where I'm so appreciative of your leadership, because you lead a technology company that's serving the church and has served the church with both affordable and powerful technology. And I think it just speaks to even your thought processes, that even you transparently saying, I don't fully understand it. I'm
Hmm.
watching it, I'm learning from it. And you're innovating around it, even while you figure it out. So
Right.
you're not waiting till it's all like, okay, I fully understand AI, and now we're going to do
Yeah.
this. But it's like,
Yeah.
with what we understand, this is what we're doing to best
I feel
serve
like fully
the church. It's
understanding
good.
AI might never happen. Like, what? How on earth does this thing work? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, this is
Yes.
incredible. Have you seen any
Well,
other, um,
yeah.
like, because you work with a lot of churches and you just mentioned
Yeah.
one at Transformation. Is there any other things that you've seen people doing, like whether it's in the church or
No.
anywhere else, like just, you know, as you're out there?
Not, no, not really. I mean, I think that I think everyone is, and I'll tell you what encourages me is the number of questions I'm getting
Yeah.
around it. That is, if anything, and this is, I actually feel like some churches right now are going through a bit of a, they're recovering from their overinvestment into
Oh
metaverse.
yeah.
I
Oh,
think a lot of
we forgot
churches
to mention Metaverse and all of this. Like, that
was
was a thing
so a
for a
lot of
minute.
churches were like, metaverse is the future, we better buy land in the
Right.
metaverse, we better, like, the metaverse is everything. I still believe that there is a future in the metaverse, but it's perceivably dead in this moment that we're having this
Right.
conversation. And I think there's a perception is AI like the metaverse, and it's clear to me that it is nothing like the
Right.
metaverse, and the metaverse was somewhat new, and it was always weird,
Right.
like, where AI is very practically,
Fits in
helpful
life,
in
right?
everything that we
Yeah,
do.
right. Yeah, Metaverse,
Yeah, so
I just could never wrap my brain around, like,
totally.
you know, it's like,
Yeah,
it's too early. It's still, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
um,
So I think though, Frank, to answer your question of like churches or organizations that are leaning into it, I honestly, I don't see a lot of it. I see a lot of it. I see a good amount of experimentation, which I'm very happy with. And a lot of pastors I talk to, they're like, "Yeah, I'm using ChatGPT for my sermons," or, "Yeah, we're using it to help with our graphic design, or
mhm,
using this tool." Or so I'm seeing some churches experimenting with it a little bit, and I think what I'm encouraged by is openness to
yeah,
it. Like, I feel like I've had to sell technology. Like, this isn't the devil, everybody. This is just a
right,
tool that the devil, gets a hold of. But it can be a tool that the Holy Spirit can guide too. And so it's. I think there's been a good response to a healthy approach to it. But I haven't seen a, here's a model for a church that's really using it well. And I think where I'm really interested, and where I'm interested to see where Tithely takes it, is with our data. And I think how, when we think about even how do we use AI to better communicate
mhm,
with people that maybe give weekly versus people that give quarterly,
right,
or how do we use it to better communicate based on different data that we have, that this person actually needs a message, like, I could somehow the data is telling us that their marriage is struggling or something, or we've noticed that the dad hasn't been coming to church regularly
yeah.
with the family. Is there a
You're
way to
gonna
ping
freak a
us that
lot
we
of
can
people
get
out with this right here. Like, you're
it? Yeah, for sure. But it's going to help us better
yeah,
pastor. And the truth is, like, the data is there. We just AI is going to help us use
right,
it in ways, and I think we have to figure out of, like, there are churches, and I don't think I can say them, but that do use cameras in their services to do Face
Right.
ID to see who's there and who's not there, and I don't know how much they're using that data, but they're collecting that data that where they perceivably could use
Mm.
it to follow up with
Right.
people. And so there's some things that it's like, what is healthy, what is violating privacy laws, and some things, and this is where I think even the government is going to be
Right.
valuable to help us give us direction of what's a good use or bad use. And I think this is where even I think church apps give a huge opportunity for customized
Right.
data, customized
Yeah,
experiences in
surfacing
AI.
it like the Amazon experience, but different and better.
Yes.
Like that's all they've been doing that for years and years and years. And I don't know if it's AI
Yes.
powering it. I'm not sure, but it's
Yeah.
personalization, which has been happening for a long
Yes.
time. But all of
Yes.
a sudden, with this, you have so much data. Sometimes you just don't even know how to get to the insights because there's just so much
Yes.
there. And if you
Yeah.
have a tool like AI that you can plug into your data, that can you can ask it questions or have it
Yes.
automatically tell you things about groups of people or individuals or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I even just think
Yeah.
really practically just surfacing, if you know a bunch of things about your people because it's in the database, right? Kids checked in, giving, serving,
Yeah.
small groups, you have all this data, right? If
Yeah.
something just told you, hey, your church has this, need right now based on,
Yeah.
knowing it about all your people, like whatever. This is a terrible
Yeah.
example, but like kids are going back to school, so you should be helping them with that
Yeah.
transition out of summer. Like that's not
Yes.
actually very useful, but right, it can just start feeding you back
Yeah.
information that's like, hey, based on all
Yes.
the things we know, let me surface some ideas to you, pastoral team, on what
Yeah.
maybe you should be preaching about, or teaching team what you should be teaching about, like
Yes.
like helping with that kind of
Well,
stuff.
and it can even mix in because it can learn, like, based on your geographic area and where people live. We're seeing that, you know, uh, we're seeing maybe that drug addiction is higher than it has been, in the past. Or we're
Mhm.
seeing in your area that there's this hot topic that maybe you didn't know
Right,
about.
right,
That and I'm not thinking of good ideas in this moment. Or we're seeing that people in your area are really getting into Beanie Babies, and we can actually give you that information. It's like, I don't know what you do with it, but you could just know that Beanie Babies are really
right,
hot in your area, and you might, because you don't care about Beanie Babies, wouldn't have even been alert to that. But maybe you can encourage your women's ministry to do a Beanie Babies
right.
day or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Or
And,
incorporate it
and
into your
so,
sermon because you're using a sermon,
or incorporate it into their
right?
sermon. Yeah, I
Somehow
mean,
because it's relevant.
but this is what AI can do, and I think and I think too, Frank, this is where it'd be fun just to even spend a whole day of like, what can AI do for your
Yeah,
church, and just brainstorm all the possibilities, because it is endless. And I think that's also the problem with it, where I think churches need to rely on you, and people like you to spend that time.
right.
And I think what they just need to be confident in is that you are spending that time to understand this technology, and when it is ready to be used, you're going to be packaging it for them in a way that it can
Yeah,
be. And it's gonna be such a powerful tool in so many aspects. And I'm getting so fired up in this conversation of like just dreaming of what's possible. And at the end of the day, what it's going to do though is help ministries do more
right.
ministry. And it's going to be really
We
exciting.
need to do another podcast and get like, I don't know, a handful, 2, 3, 5, like pastors on, and like have
Yeah.
a chat, like have this chat with
Yeah.
a crew and just talk AI. What are you
Yeah.
thinking about? What are you
Let's
doing?
do
What are
it.
you scared of? Like that would be a fun little
Yes. Yeah.
show to do, just to,
Yeah. Yeah.
get them.
And maybe freak them out a little bit, because I think it's healthy to be like, what do you think about taking a picture of your congregation and doing facial
Yeah,
scan and using AI? Is that good or bad? Why? Why
right.
not? And really processing some of these
Right.
tensions that we're going to navigate with these
And
technologies,
find
or,
out.
or storing this kind of data on your congregation. I think one of the things that churches, that I remember, even as I work with churches, is they share passwords with me sometimes. I'm like, you really, like, just emailed me your password and like to your database,
Right.
and it's basically just the password is password. Um, it's like
With a
this is your
with a
data.
one at the end.
Yeah, with
Right.
and so it's I think pastors and church leaders have they have a huge opportunity in front of them, and this is an exciting day.
Mhm.
Shouldn't be a scary
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I
Um,
believe that.
yeah, and the truth is, I can't wait to have this conversation a year from now
I
too,
know, right?
because this is going to move fast, and a year from now, this conversation is going to be very different. It's not going to be what could we potentially do in the future. It's going to be what are we
Right.
doing, and what do we need to be
Mhm.
doing
Yeah.
even more or less of with this, because it's the next year is going to
It
change a lot.
Yeah, as fast as it's moving, guaranteed a year from now it's gonna be night and day in terms of just what's possible, what people are actually doing with it
Yes.
right now. Nobody's really doing anything super, super
Yep.
significant in the church space that I know of. There actually probably is people doing stuff. I just, church is big,
Yep.
but I haven't heard of any,
Yeah.
super interesting stuff just yet. Well, man, this has been awesome. We've been
Yeah.
on for a
Thank you.
bit. We were going to talk social media and we talked AI. Way,
This is
yeah,
better. This
super
is
fun.
better.
Where can folks go just to connect with you, find out more about you? If they need some
Yeah.
consulting around all this stuff, obviously that's your world. So where's the best spot?
Yeah. So if you just Google, there's this website, Google, Google.com, and Google Nils Smith, Nils. You'll find me. Nilsmith.com is our website, at Nils Smith on all the social media
Have you
channels.
typed into ChatGPT and Bard your name to see what it
I
returns?
have.
Yes. Okay.
I have. It's what is funny, Frank, around ChatGPT is Jay Crandon did the same, and he's the online pastor at Saddleback Church, and he and I have done a lot together through the
Yeah.
years. It lists my books as him as the co-author on my books, and it actually half of my bio it lists as his bio. And he's like, "Why am I Nils Smith on the internet?" But it just lists him as Jay Crandon. So it knows who I am, but it doesn't necessarily fully know who Jay is.
Uh,
And so it isn't 100% accurate
yeah.
yet, which has been interesting to learn. But yeah, so chat, you can chat GPT me as well, or Bard me, and
You can Bard me.
it'll tell you a lot about me.
Oh man, this has been awesome. Guys, thanks for joining. Nils, thanks for coming on, spending some time with us. Appreciate you. Appreciate your insight, thoughtfulness around this topic. And if you're catching it on YouTube, make sure to ask questions in the comments, and we'll poke around on those. But thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week on another episode. See you guys.